Your Excellency, Honorable Prime Minister and other distinguished dignitaries.
I believe that we have gathered here today in search of answers to questions that are being raised today on the streets everywhere by the citizens of our country. The objective would be to find solutions to the economic problems confronting the country. The first fundamental premise that we wish to place before all of you is the need to be honest and truthful in our search for the answers. Sadly, truth had been the first casualty, not only when war was break out, but also when peace struggles to survive. In the President's address to the nation on 16th of March, he told the country in clear terms that we are in the midst of an economic crisis. He urged the people to be united as a nation to overcome the crisis. The key word there is the unity of the people. In a crisis situation like this, it is the responsibility of the politicians and intellectuals to collectively find solution to the issues, the President said. We need to be alert against any move that will divide and disunite the people. Divisions will lead to external intervention. Economic fallout will also result in external manipulations to the detrimental to the national interest of the country. We are here to offer our support to overcome the economic crisis. We believe that the country's economic woes are far worse than what the government has told the country. We must, as a first measure, trust the people and tell them the truth in the full measure. The truth is that Sri Lanka is at the threshold of bankruptcy. The challenge is to effectively and urgently avert the dangerous consequences of bankruptcy that have begun to fall upon the helpless people of our country. This has not happened because of this present government. This happened for the last 74 years since independence. The consecutive governments had taken whatever the government way of implementing all their proposals in this country and how they handle the economic issues. We wish to place before you a well-considered proposal, not as a long-term solution, but as an interim measure to avert quickly ongoing crisis. We also undertake to immediately initiate this program that can be dealt with on a government-to-government basis. We estimate the urgent requirements of foreign exchange in the range of not a mere $500 million or $1 billion, but in the range of at least $5 to $6 billion. A fair portion of this sum needs to be set apart for achieving self-sufficiency in food production, pharmaceutical items, animal husbandry, and fisheries sectors on a highly prioritized basis. But the rest must be utilized not for setting past loans, but to ensure the uninterrupted supply of our fuel, electricity, and energy requirements, vital to keep the country moving without collapsing. But the problem is that the government struggling to raise $1 million under unhappy conditions from friendly nations does not believe in the possibility of raising $5 or $6 billion on an easy way. The next is that the government has not approached the oil-rich Middle Eastern countries in the most appropriate manner in which they could raise this urgent requirement. I must tell you, Excellency, since maybe the first Consular General set up in Jeddah, the consecutive government had never dealt with the Middle East countries on an economic platform. Basically, they focused on housemaid issues, labor issues, not on business to business. So this, I believe that there are two things I could tell you, Excellency, from my experience, how the Middle Eastern countries and the top leadership works. Diplomatic channel works to an extent, but they work with friendship and work with sort of, they call it wasta. So if we could build that up, and sky is the limit, that's how the Bangladesh last March 17, they signed the agreement to invest about $10 billion in Bangladesh. So I remember former president, how he dealt with Iranian government, and he was able to bring, unfortunately because of the sanction that was not being able to continue. But this is how that we deal with the Middle Eastern countries, and this could be organized, Excellency. We are willing to initiate the process in the national interest to facilitate raise from a few Middle Eastern countries the targeted sum of $5 or $6 billion as investment or long-term credit facility for the supply of crude and other petroleum products or byproducts of petroleum or as a loan, or if possible, even some grant. We should not forget that the highest net foreign exchange earning comes from these countries, in the range of US $7 billion plus every year as worker remittance. Permit us to refer to recent history. The main question that people raise is what happened to all our national wealth? Where have all our foreign exchange earnings gone? Of course, we believe that COVID-19 did contribute to our present plight. Others blame extensive corruption in the successive government that ruled the country. There are those who blame wrong decisions, delayed decisions, and no decisions at the state government's level for the economic woes. We take the view that all these have contributed, but only partly, to our present plight. The truth lies elsewhere. From the time of Sri Lanka achieving independence 74 years ago, we have been kept preoccupied with ethnocentric issues. Those issues were kept up and alive by politicians of all governments and all communities, most religious leaders, and the media. The much-needed unity of the peoples who constituted the Sri Lankan nations got dented beyond measure. We were fighting within one family that led to a 30-year war which dislodged and displaced dialogue. We spent all our wealth on buying arms and ammunition for the war. Our wealth went to arms manufacturing countries which benefited from our war, while we ended up as paupers begging for aid and assistance. Today, the rulers have been cornered to a situation where they say, never mind donors' conditions. We need desperately the dollars. We won the war, but we lost the country. Those who left the country are strong. While we as a nation have been rendered helpless, our appeal is to treat all the citizens as Sri Lankans. The country must continue as a multi-religious, multicultural, and multi-linguistic country. No one is opposed to giving Buddhism the religion of the majority. The primary position is spelled out in the Constitution. But we must abandon all forms of racism and hate speeches that divide the people. If and when the majority treats the others with dignity and equal rights, we will no longer need the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress. We thank you for giving us this opportunity.